And back home now, last week, some 27 illegal miners were arrested in Osun State for illegal mining activities, some of them Chinese nationals and 10 locals, including a local traditional ruler. This reinforces the claims that some of the miners sent out of Zamfara State are finding their way down south. And in reaction to this last week, the Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Mr. Olamilekan Adegbite, proposed the establishment of special courts to try and prosecute illegal miners in the country in a bid to weed out unlicensed miners. Well, to help us understand the depth of illegal mining in Nigeria this morning is the chairman of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry Mining Group, Mr. Babatunde Alatishe, who's here with us in the studio. Good morning and thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for having us. Good morning.
Now, let's begin our conversation with the federal government's 13-man Ajaokuta presidential project implementation team that was constituted yesterday to fast-track the process of revamping the steel company. What do you expect anything different from this time around?
Well, it's refreshing to hear something like this. You cannot do anything in any country, or a country cannot be industrialized without steel. You need steel for making cars, for making spoons, cutleries, everything you can think of. Steel application is needed. But the more important thing that I feel should be focusing on is what is the feedstock that the Ajaokuta Steel Complex, the blast furnace, is going to feed on? For instance, in order to make 1.3 million metric tons of steel, liquid metal, you need 2.3 million tons of iron ore. Now, if you check MBS, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, last year, I would be surprised if we actually mined anything more than 20,000 tons of iron ore. So if you have a situation where you need 2.3 million tons and the country is struggling to produce 20,000 tons, now there are two sides of this. There is a huge opportunity for employment. The other side is, if you're not prepared for your feedstock, we're back to the same, we're back to where we started. Now, aside from the feedstock, you need the refractories, you need cooking coal, you need things like manganese, So where are these things being sourced? Now, the terms of reference, number 3, the third terms of reference read out yesterday was to ensure all relevant raw materials are sourced locally, bearing in mind local content provisions, Executive Order 005 from the President. So now is the time to start looking for where to find the refractories, the clay you need. Now is the time to start looking for the cooking coal. Now, you need a huge amount of every single thing we're talking about. So are the railroads ready? So these are the things that we also need to look at. People need to be working in the background. So yes, it is a great, fantastic thing to start. We need it. It is long overdue, but there are some things that need to happen in the background as soon as possible.
And what are some of those things that need to happen in the background?
Mining, for instance, NIEMCO is in charge of the iron ore that will supply the feedstock for the blast furnace. What is the level of operations of NIEMCO? How many tons of iron ore was mined last year or this year? Like I said, we need 2.3 million tons. And it's even more expensive to shut the blast furnace than starting it. So not only do you need 2.3 million tons every year, you need it continuously. And aside from the 2.3 million tons that need to be mined immediately, we need the refractories. That's the clays that you need. You need the cooking coal. You need the manganese. So the mining for these things should be started as soon as possible so that when this presidential task force finishes their job, it is not that we're going back to the drawing board to look for these raw materials. These raw materials, we need to know who are the people that have concessions on them so that they can start working as soon as possible. So it's not that when the furnace wants to start, we are looking for them.
And now this brings us to the issue of the upsurge in illegal mining activities in the country. How would you react to that?
Well, to be honest, I'm worried but not surprised. I mean, with the price of the crude oil bottoming out to 0, even in the minus, and if we're lucky, it's still be underneath the cost price for production. So it is only, it's a no-brainer that people run towards all the other alternatives. So we should expect even more, sourcing of gold. What is the price of gold right now? It's last time I checked, it was $1,734 per ounce tray. So, and it has not gone down. So what do we need to, how do we educate ourselves on this? All other ores are also increasing in prices or stable. Meanwhile, oil is down. So part of the diversification drive of this current administration is to focus on oil, solid mineral and agriculture. So you will see more activities in the solid mineral space.
But is that why there seems to be really an upsurge in illegal mining activities?
Yes, because people are looking for alternative sources of wealth. So, I mean, if nobody can drive out, nobody's going to buy fuel. So there are people looking for alternative sources of. So, but instead of government allowing these things to, sieve through our shores, for instance, last year somebody was caught with $2.7 million worth of gold at Muritala Mohammed International Airport. For everybody they catch, probably 50 have gone past. So what am I trying to say? You will see more activity in mining, and I'm really happy. But another indication is the states are not sleeping. They are waking up to the fact that these natural resources are very important. Your environment is very important. And how long are we going to continue to depend on allocation from the center? People need to look towards themselves in the states for internally generated revenue.
And that brings us to the issue of governments now. As a key player in the solid mineral industry, how would you describe the government's role in the effort to, of course, secure these commodities? Okay,
well, the government has done quite a lot with this new minister. He's very bold, and I'm extremely happy that he's spearheading what's going on. Because at the Chamber of Commerce, for instance, he's given us a huge, significant boost in investor confidence. For instance, we miners that do this business legitimately, before you can even enter a mine, you must explore, you must spend hundreds of thousands of US dollars. Now, when you have people that do not care about these procedures, they don't care about royalty payments, they don't care about the environment, which is extremely important, because one of the reasons why it is extremely crucial to key these people in and have a database to have all these people there is when they are done mining, what happens to the environment? They destroy it for generations to come. You can't plant on it, you can't grow anything on it, you can't build anything on it. So illegal mining needs to stop.
But one of the things that the minister is proposing is the establishment of special courts to prosecute those found wanting in the area of illegal mining. Now, does that mean that we actually have more illegal miners than we actually have the legitimate operators in the country?
Oh, yes, of course. But government is trying to name them informal miners, not illegal miners. But when you have a situation that foreigners I'll give you an example. In any typical site, maybe they're trying to set up a crushing plant and you buy it from China. China will send you probably 2 or 3 engineers to help you with installation. Now, when you find a dozen Chinese in the jungle, that is worrying. I mean, if you go to any typical quarry, you would see maybe 2 or 3 Chinese engineers installing a plant or a machine specific. But when you have a dozen, 15, and then obviously they're being backed by local monarchs, so it is a serious cause for concern.
Well, what should be done instead?
Great. Now, technology is the only way to win. Now, there's something called structural geology. There's a software called 2D, 3D forward reverse modeling. Now, basically what that does is that it tells you what has been taken away from the site as long as the initial GPS points were taken before work was done. So all you simply do is you give them a bill for what has been taken, and you give them a bill for the environmental degradation they've done.
But what does this tell you about the need for data of approved miners in the country?
Now, data of approved miners, sometime towards the end of last year, the former minister was actually, with the Natural Resources Fund, they created about 7 or 8 different companies that, not created, sorry, they contracted 7 or 8 different international companies to explore different jurisdictions within Nigeria. So we're waiting for a lot of data to come out from that exercise.
Now, in Osho State, for instance, now that state actually has a large deposit of gold, just like Ogun State, and that, of course, is certainly the attraction of the foreigners. But what's the drag in getting investors to actually refine and uptake the production of bullions from those deposits? Ken Smith, for example, had planned to commence operations in Ogun State this year, but I'm not sure that anything has been achieved so far in that regard.
Okay, I'm not sure about Ken Smith and what they're doing, but I'm 100% sure about a company called Thor Explorations. They're the ones behind the Segolola Gold Project, and I think they had a groundbreaking ceremony about a month or two ago, and they're doing some really impressive stuff. And it's backed by, I mean, funding from the Canadian Stock Exchange, if I'm correct. So there are things happening in the space.
And are we likely to see any more of that coming up?
Oh, yes, of course. Government just even created a gold policy, probably towards the end of last year. And there are, I was part of a committee with the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development, and it was specifically targeted on revenue optimization. And part of it, we looked at gold concessions and how we can quickly bring them back to life.
And what about the issues of insecurity, for instance? Now, in Zamfara State, of course, there's banditry, and it's also been linked to illegal mining. What more can government do to actually address the level of insecurity?
Okay, great. When Nigeria was, I mean, before we found our oil, mining was our mainstay. And in fact, at some point in time, we were the second largest tin smelters in the world. Now, how did we protect our resources then? We had something called the mines police, and they were responsible for securing the mines. I think something similar today would be the Civil Defense Corps. Now, we can all see what's going on territorially with Southwest creating the Amoteku initiative. So what does that tell you? We can take and borrow from all these other entities. If the mines police is no longer there, civil defense can do what they were doing. The Amoteku initiative can do what they were doing, or whatever other form of initiative across every other geopolitical zone can do.
What about the level of enforcement of the Minerals and Mining Act of 2007 as regards artisanal small-scale mining? Can you talk to us about this?
Great, fantastic. And I was hoping you were going to bring that up. Now, Section 131... Sorry, Section 131 to Section 133, Chapter 5, Paragraph 4 states that, this is in the Offences and Penalties chapter, that any person that removes, possesses, or dispossesses, or disposes of any mineral contrary to the provisions of the Act is punishable by at least a minimum of 5 years imprisonment and a fine of 20 million naira.
And have there been any scapegoats?
Well, we hope that this will be the first set of scapegoats that will test the waters of our Mineral Act.
And while we wait to see that, now, do you actually think that there should be a form of partnership between the Ministry of Mines and Steel Development and sister agencies such as the Immigration, for example, of course, to curb the influx of foreigners who are mining illegally in the country?
Yes, of course. Like the Honorable Minister said, a lot of these Chinese have expired travel documents. Maybe they came in on a on a visitor's visa, and they're all expired. So definitely the Office of the Comptroller General of Nigerian Immigration Service needs to be called into this. You have situations where I've been to some sites and, you know, there's no transfer of knowledge. When you can get a Nigerian welder, why should there be a Chinese welder? You know, or whatever other country national's welder. So, you know, what we need to do is those that are of technical expertise that are foreigners, yes, but there are certain things that Nigerians, technicians, engineers can do, and we should not starve these young professionals of the opportunity to learn. So there's an Executive 5 order that says, you know, use Nigerian intellect. So we need to do more of that. And any of these operations, I mean, you can't hide mining operations except when they're illegal. Why can't you have a team of people that can visit these sites and find out how many Nigerians are actually working there?
Now, we all understand that not less than 500 kilograms of gold is actually smuggled out of the country on a monthly basis to
Yes.
neighboring countries. One would expect that to have reduced since the land border closure, for instance.
Yes. Now, regarding smuggling and illegal exports, there are so many things Nigeria can do, and Nigerian authorities can do. One, for instance, we need to train all port of exit officials. Some of them, most of them cannot even identify certain minerals. So education, training, very, very important. We need to have pictorial diagrams of what these things look at these locations so that when in doubt, you can simply look at what the picture says. We need to create export processing zones, extremely important. We don't want a situation that you want to export a mineral and you're going to the same place where they're processing cassava or gari or something. Give us a place, maybe in Eleko or Lekki or wherever, that the only thing that happens there is solid minerals. For instance, government tried to create export guidelines. And one of the things in the export guidelines says that you cannot export anything that hasn't been beneficiated or concentrated. All right? Now, these export processing zones can have beneficiating plants of some of the lowest level that maybe remove 1 or 2 impurities and increases the level of concentration of that ore. Why can't, for instance, port officials have XRF portable scanners that will give you a real-time analysis of whatever you are not sure about? It is a handheld device. You simply point it at whatever you want to analyze, and within a few minutes, it will tell you this is gold, this is silver, this is bronze, this is whatever. Now, we need more bilateral relationships with countries of destination. We all know Dubai is full of Nigerian gold. And I think the Honorable Minister has made progress in talking with Dubai officials regarding repatriation of stolen Nigerian gold that do not have the right documentation. We need stiffer laws. 20 million naira is not enough because by the time you calculate, I'll give you an example, tin. A ton of tin right now, which is readily available everywhere in Nigeria, Jos is called the tin capital. A ton of tin right now is $15,920. That is a lot, a ton. And imagine a container is 20 tons of that. That is a lot of money. A lot of Nigerians, I'm sure that you're hearing that for the first time. Now, a lot of Nigerians don't know this. What do we need to do? We need to let everybody know that, look, anybody taking these things out, it is economic sabotage.
And that would be a very good point to leave the conversation. Chairman of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry Mining Group, Mr. Babatunde Alatishe, thanks for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Our commodities market segment is up next when we return in just a moment. Please stay with us.